On October 8th, 2021, Concerned Ape announced his next game, Haunted Chocolatier. News on this one has been pretty sparse lately, though I do have a feeling we might be getting some updates soon. But before that happens, I want to go over everything we know about this new project. I've broken things up into a few different sections, so feel free to skip around. Now let's jump right in, just like this Super Mario 64 reference in the trailer. If Stardew Valley mostly channeled the energy of the sun, Haunted Chocolatier channels the energy of the moon. Both are vital. These words come from Concerned Ape's blog. The solo developer, also known as Eric Barone, wants to branch out from some of the constraints typical to the farming sim genre. He's done with these traditional and humble ways. Now, the idea of a spooky chocolate-making game might seem a bit random, but you have to admit it's also pretty charming. I guess we should start from the beginning. Where did this idea come from? Or as Eric puts it, why chocolate? I'm not sure, it just kind of came to me. I think sometimes the best ideas just appear in a flash, instead of being cleverly thought out. He says that the game is constantly evolving, so it's difficult to describe and categorize, but notes that the gameplay loop involves gathering ingredients, making chocolate, and running a chocolate shop. Of course, there will also be exploration, side quests, and NPCs to befriend, much like in Stardew Valley. The game is described as an RPG simulation game on the website's FAQ page, and Eric started working on it in 2020, mostly at night and on the weekends. And that's because he's still very actively working on updates to Stardew Valley and its mobile port. This actually isn't the first new project he started either, but it is the one that he's most likely to actually finish. Chocolate represents that which is delightful. The haunted castle represents the allure of the unknown. The ghosts represent the imprint of the past. The beginning of this trailer very nicely sets up the atmosphere of Haunted Chocolatier. There is a lot of information packed into the short trailer, so let's start with the chocolate shop. Similar to Stardew Valley's cooking mechanic, we'll have to gather ingredients and follow recipes in order to create different types of sweets. Right now we know of a chocolate bar and a simple truffle. There's a cookbook in our kitchen, possibly containing some kind of magical or ghostly properties. I'm guessing it'll somehow tie into the main story, much like inheriting your grandfather's farm in Stardew. Here's a look at 2 recipes. The most interesting thing here is the time it takes to make each candy. 10 seconds for the chocolate bar and 11.5 minutes for the truffle. I don't know if we'll be able to cook in batches or not, but I'm very interested to see what an upgraded kitchen looks like and all the appliances we'll need to run a successful shop. We also see the ingredients required, effects caused by consuming a food, and a set price to be sold at. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any sort of cooking minigame, just throwing all the ingredients into a cauldron. But this is something that could definitely change or just hasn't been shown to us yet. One thing noted by Concerned Ape is that everything seen so far could still change before the game is finished. He's been working by himself and plans to keep everything with this game completely solo, with the exception of localization and console porting. So it will probably be a while before he announces a release window. Next, let's talk about the shop itself. We see a couple different versions of this space, likely after we've purchased some upgrades to expand the area. It seems like the shop portion of Haunted Chocolatier is mostly automated. We set up our displays before we open, and then customers come in and start buying. You've also probably noticed the ghosts floating about. One seems to act as a cashier, and the others carry chocolates on their heads around the shop. I'm not exactly sure why they're here, and that will likely stay a mystery until the game releases. There's also a small peek at customization, and it seems to be pretty in-depth with countertops, displays, flooring, rugs, accessories, wallpaper, and storage. So this is where we sell our chocolate. This is where we make our chocolate. Where do we get the ingredients for our chocolate? Well, this is not a farming sim, so we'll primarily have to hunt and forage. I'm sure we can also shop for items, but we haven't seen that yet. In this clip, the player character gathers some nectar from these flowers, huckleberries from the bush up top, and gets a gallon of milk from this creature. You heard that right. Instead of taking care of cows on a farm in order to get milk, we will be hitting milkmen with sticks. So that was everything we know about the chocolate making part of the game. So far, a lot of it at least looks and sounds familiar to Eric's first game, but just exactly how much overlap will there be between this and Stardew Valley? This is what the FAQ page has to say about that. Like Stardew Valley, Haunted Chocolatier is another town game, where you move to a new town and try your hand at a new way of living. You'll get to know the townspeople, achieve your goals, and make progress in many ways. However, the core gameplay and theme are quite a bit different. Haunted Chocolatier is more of an action RPG compared to Stardew Valley. And one very important part of any RPG is your relationship with the other characters. We know of 5 different NPCs so far. First up is Lily. She welcomes us into her home by saying, "So, you've received my invitation." She might be some kind of mystic or fortune teller, very aloof. But this room also has a vaporwave kind of vibe going on, which I think is a pretty cool mashup of styles. Burke is the new blacksmith in town. Sorry, Clint. He doesn't seem to be too bright though, because his bed is in the same room as this giant furnace. But this is where we'll be able to get our weapon and armor upgrades. And here's a look at some of his character portraits. Now this is where we get into the more RPG parts of Haunted Chocolatier. The player character walks up to Maddie, who asks us a question. We then get to choose from 3 dialogue options. There were some scenes like this in Stardew Valley, but that was after we reached a certain heart level with a character. I'm betting there will be a much bigger emphasis on choice in this game, with our decisions and dialogue options having some kind of effect on the main story and the way the townspeople perceive and interact with us. Next up is Jet, who reminds me a lot of Sebastian. Seems to be a mysterious and sneaky type. He works in this observatory and is researching something behind Dr. Tungsten's back. I want to take a moment to appreciate this kind of sci-fi techie look that we've seen throughout this trailer. It's used in a lot of different locations actually, including our very own castle with all these tubes and lights. So I'm wondering if this game takes place at some point in the future. The last named character we see in the trailer is Nigel, the bartender or potions master. It's not quite clear. He proceeds to state the obvious: "You must be our new chocolatier," which gets everyone's attention. I wonder what happened to the old chocolatier. Surely it's nothing scandalous or traumatic that would cause such a reaction. One question you might be asking yourself is, does the game take place in the world of Stardew Valley? Concerned Ape has said there will be some kind of connections, but I can't reveal the extent of that just yet. And I'm personally not ready to speculate on that, but maybe in another video after we've gotten some more info. Now, I already touched on some of the different locations we've seen, but I want to go over everything again and add in some of the spots that I missed. First is our castle. Something that took me a few watches to notice was that our shop is directly connected to the kitchen, and the kitchen is just to the right of this entry hall. It also looks like we have a butler. I guess we'll be too busy cooking up new types of candy to take care of simple household chores. Since we're moving into a big old haunted castle, I'm hoping there will be some locked doors and hidden rooms to find. Now, as Eric says, there won't be anything directly analogous to the community center, but there will be elements that fulfill a similar role. One of them being the big old castle that you're living in. So we at least know this castle will be more than just the place we go to sleep at night. The entrance to our chocolate shop is located in the town here. Nearby is the blacksmith that we've already seen the inside of, which is across from the bakery. I wonder if this will be a competitor to our own business. This is most likely Lily's house, with the plants and pyramids visible in the windows. There's also a town hall and a clock in a tree. We then have some other screenshots, including this cabin in the woods. This might be its interior, an adventurer's hideout with an interesting map in the corner. Possibly a cave system or a map of part of the town. Last in the snowy area is the observatory on top of the hill and this house guarded by a gargoyle. Next we have the grassy area. which seems to be the go-to place for our hunting and foraging needs. There's a fire tower with a fire risk gauge. At first I was wondering if we might have wildfires occur in the game, but then I realized we've already seen some of the effects of this. In the Super Mario 64 moment towards the beginning of the trailer, we see this area with plumes of smoke to the left. This dead area with the crows has recently been burned, and there's already some new life sprouting up. It also looks like there's some sort of fire creature, which probably drops an important ingredient we need for chocolate making. Nearby this is a small bridge. And the last thing in this forest is this old school bus, which has been converted into a planter and is probably where our character can grow a few ingredients. Now, there are a few locations left that I saved for the end of this list because I can't exactly tell where they are. First is this secret lab. Now, it's probably in our castle because there are a bunch of ghosts researching honey, but who knows? Then there's this bar where Nigel works. It appears to be underground because there's a set of stairs that lead down to it. I'm wondering if there is a subway system in this game because we hear a rattling and see light pass by these windows, which would make sense if we're underground. Last, there's a giant hive where we'll fight this bee boss. This is actually the most recent screenshot we've seen from the game. Eric posted it back in August, along with the lovely buzzing music you're hearing in the background. And now is the perfect time to talk about combat. Concerned Ape has an entire blog post dedicated to combat because it's going to be a lot more important in this game than it was in Stardew Valley. On October 30th, 2021, he said, "You can rest assured that I'm not copying and pasting Stardew's combat. On the contrary, almost everything in Haunted Chocolatier, including the combat, is completely coded and drawn from scratch." So in addition to the sword, we now have a bow, which will probably be my preferred weapon. There's also going to be a shield. Using your shield to block an attack will cause most enemies to be stunned. You can then attack them much faster than normal. This tactic promises to reward more patient and cautious players who wait for the perfect opportunity to strike. Eric notes, there will be other offhand items besides shields that will complement different playstyles. What I believe he's referring to is the player's inventory in the bottom left corner. The left box contains your primary weapon, which would use a left click, and then you can add other items to be triggered with a right click. It looks like we'll be able to scroll through those options and switch up things on the fly. Haunted Chocolatier has dual wielding, which makes perfect sense due to all the RPG stuff. I think it's most interesting that one of our right-click options seems to be a present, because normally you gift an NPC a specific item that they like, but this just seems to be a generic gift. Before I wrap things up here, I want to go over some miscellaneous questions Concerned Ape has answered over on Twitter and his blog that you might have missed. There is no release date because Haunted Chocolatier is, as he puts it, still relatively early in development, and I want to be able to work in peace without the pressure of a release date or even an estimated release date. He's also stated that everything is on the right track so far. I have the complete vision for the game in my head, and it's just a matter of grinding it out, which is what I'm doing every day. We already know that Eric has the ability to create amazing things, so we just have to be patient. The only confirmed language for the game is English. There will be others, of course, but no official announcements. It'll also definitely release on PC and most likely all of the other major platforms. Now over to Twitter. Most of the assets will be completely new with a couple tweaked sprites imported from Stardew. The ghosts that live in our haunted castle will be mostly separate from the townspeople. It's your own secret world, as he calls it. Which is interesting because we clearly see them interacting in our shop. Maybe the ghosts are invisible to the townspeople? There will be at least one hat in the game. It's unlikely to come to mobile, and no multiplayer has been confirmed yet. Finally, the price will not be higher than the price of Stardew Valley, which is $15 on Steam in the US, though I would definitely be willing to pay double that. All in all, you can be sure that Haunted Chocolatier is in very good hands. Eric himself has said, "I won't rest or release this game until I am personally satisfied that it's very fun and compelling in every aspect." So if you're as excited for this game as I am, stick around this channel for more videos like this, which I'll be making as soon as we get some more updates. And if you're looking for another pixelated RPG to follow with cooking, foraging, and crafting, then check out Chef RPG, which is set to release in 2023.